Good Monday morning and welcome to Monday Musings in the Midwest. I'm your host, Barry Collins, retired attorney and educator. And because I'm a retired attorney, I want to say that this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship between myself and any of my viewers, and I'm not giving legal advice. I had a number of comments last week that people liked when I stayed right at 15 minutes. So I'll try not to rant too long. And last week was a busy week. We had Lindsay Clancy. We had Gerhard Koenig hearing out in Hawaii. We had an Alec Murdaugh hearing. And we had the Luigi Mangione hearing in New York. So let's dive into those things. Lindsay Clancy. We're in week 3 of the actual hearings of testimony. They were dark. They call it dark on Friday when they don't have witnesses, but they've done 13 days of testimony. I'm telling you, I don't know what to think about this hearing, but I will tell you I had a question. What happens if the jury cannot come to a verdict? Well, that's called a hung jury. And in that case, the charge goes away and the DA has to decide whether to refile or not. It will be interesting to see what the DA says. But I did take the time to talk to a psychological professional, not a psychologist, talk to a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, a psychologist or in that field. And they said, you know, you're seeing a lot of stuff where they're saying, oh, she was misdiagnosed, oh, this, oh, that. A lot of times folks that are in that kind of depression, anxiety, they want to minimize their symptoms is what I was told. And so they may not be as forthcoming. So when you have psychiatrists on the stand and they're saying, no, she said there were no suicidal ideations, she was saying she wasn't going to hurt her kids, that's what they were being told. And I remember one of the psychiatrists, I think it was maybe Dr. Tufts, but don't quote me, who said she seemed like, you know, at least she was being honest. She was a medical professional. We kind of relied on that. So I think maybe we better back off medical folks. It's very, very hard to get a psychiatric, psychological diagnosis right. The other thing is that those drugs take a while to get in your system. And what I was seeing, and this is just my opinion, I was seeing her take things for a short time, report side effects, and they'd say, okay, wean off, and then start this one. I hope she did it right. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she just started taking things. If you don't wean yourself off the first drug before you introduce the second, you might cause problems. I don't know, and I'm not saying that's what's happening, but what I'm saying is this was a very tricky issue. Again, I don't know what to think of Lindsay Clancy. I just don't know what to think. I don't think, can I be very honest? I think if I had been a DA, I might not have brought this. I may have reached an agreement for her to get a lot of treatment, but I don't know. I don't know. And I've watched most of the trial. Diet Pepsi. I just honestly don't know what to think. I'm personally beginning to think we may have a hung jury, but we could have a jury that goes out and comes in with a guilty verdict in 3 minutes. The key is she has already admitted she killed the children. She's admitted that. So all of these conspiracy theories with the husband, she admitted she killed the kids. That's not a dispute here. So I'm not real sure what all the conspiracy theories are about. I mean, I do know what they're about. We always want to find somebody else to blame. I don't know why. Let's just watch this trial with a woman who admitted she did it and a woman who has said she's having psychological problems, and let's find out what happens. You know, she was a nurse, a very controlled, kind of a controlled profession. She was trying to be the perfect mom. She was trying to be the perfect wife. She wanted to have the perfect family. All of those are pressures you're bringing on yourself, in addition to postpartum depression. And I don't know how to say this, so I'm hoping you'll take it the way I mean. It breaks my heart that these children are gone. But maybe the good part of this trial is maybe we can get some more focus on postpartum issues, because there are a lot of women who suffer them to some degree. It can be postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis. Whatever happened, my heart goes out to Lindsay Clancy. My heart goes out to Patrick. It goes out to all her family. And it just absolutely, I'm heartbroken for those 3 children. We'll see what happens. I think we've probably got 2 or 3 weeks of this trial left. I will tell you that Kevin Reddington is impressive. And he's had about a 50-year career. And from what I've researched, I think 2 or 3 times he's taken some huge cases with psychological issues in them, probably more than 2 or 3. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say his specialty, but he's done it before, and you can tell he's very, very good at it. All right, let's talk about some of these others that we haven't really talked about. If you didn't know about Gerhard Koenig, he was a doctor who was married to a nuclear physicist, and they were living in Hawaii, and he thought she was having an affair. She had a friendship with a coworker. I don't know if it was an affair. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But the claim is he tried to push her off a cliff during a hike. He tried to inject her with something, and he was hitting her with a rock. Now, we know he was hitting her with a rock because she was rescued by a couple of nurses who were also hiking on that trail, who saw him hitting her with a rock. Well, he was convicted. But after the conviction, we had jurors come out and say, oh, we didn't think he meant to kill her. And then they convicted him of something related to the intent to kill. So he filed for a new trial. Good for him. Again, we're talking about how appeals get things right. He was supposed to be sentenced last week. Instead, they had a hearing. And what the judge has done in that case is they are calling the jurors back in, I want to say September 10th, but I may be wrong on the date, in mid-September. And they're going to have a discussion with each of the jurors individually to see if they did not reach their verdict in the correct way. Again, if they didn't, the conviction's overturned, he's not released, they'll have another trial. So, Gerhard Koenig, we'll see what the jurors have to say. We'll see if the judge says, you know, wait a minute, you just convicted him of a crime that has an underlying cause that you had to intend to kill them. You can't do that if you don't think he intended to kill them. So, interesting case, which we'll look at more in the future. When the juror discussions came out right after, I was perplexed by what they were saying. So we'll see. I have the funny feeling, just me, I have the funny feeling this may be headed to a new trial. I don't know. Speaking of new trials, remember Alex Murdaugh? The jurors did not actually discuss anything inappropriate, but we had that clerk of court or court clerk, whichever way they say it, in South Carolina, who was actually convicted of inappropriately influencing the jury. Well, Alex Murdaugh was in court last week, and there were a number of motions, but the key among them is Alex Murdaugh does not want to go back to that small county where his family was a scion of the legal system for decades. They asked for a change of venue, and the judge did approve a change of venue, which makes sense. It's a big case, and everybody in that county knew the Murdaughs. I don't know where it'll go. Usually that kind of change of venue they put to a bigger town. So we'll see, you know, is it going to go to the state capitol because you have a larger juror pool and you have more resources there? We'll see where that goes, but the judge did do that critical thing. She moved it out of that county. So looks like that case, I didn't know if it would go back to court for a while, but it looks like the Alex Murdaugh case may get heard in 2027. It might be in the spring of 2027. We'll keep an eye on that. Final case for today, Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione stalked and killed. And I can say he stalked and killed because he pled guilty. He pled guilty in federal court to stalking charges. And as a part of that, he had to stand up and do what they call an allocution. He had to tell what he did. And he admitted he stalked him. He admitted he did some things so he knew where he was. He admitted that he fraudulently claimed to be an investor in United Healthcare Systems so he could find out where and when and the schedule for their meeting. And that's how he tracked down Chief Executive Officer, I think his name was Brian Thompson, and killed him. Now, it's interesting because he faced both federal charges for stalking and he faced state of New York charges for murder. Why would you plead guilty? And by the way, I don't think there was really a plea deal. I think there were discussions and he said, I'm going to plead guilty. They may have had some parameters on what would be said at this hearing, but he pled guilty in the federal courts. Well, I will tell you, if I had a choice between state and federal prison, I'm going to federal prison every time. I think the federal prisons are usually nicer. That may be a fallacy, but I think that's true. Second thing is, there's the thing called double jeopardy. You can't be tried twice for the same thing. If I am accused of murder and I go to court and I am found innocent, even if the next day they find out more information, I've already been found innocent by court of law. Well, here he's been found guilty of stalking, which is related to what he did in the murder. The big question, and the one I'm going to be watching because it fascinates me, is does the federal plea of stalking, where he admitted stalking and knew it was wrong so he could murder that gentleman, does that prohibit him being retried in state court because of double jeopardy? Now, again, in many states, I think it'd be okay because it's not the exact same charge. New York, though, has some twists and turns in its little, double jeopardy. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, they're briefing that right now, and that one will go to court. I thought it was late September, early October, we'll have a hearing on that one. But that's interesting because Luigi Mangione has a whole cadre of supporters who claim somebody else did it or it's justified somehow. How you say killing somebody is justified because you don't like the healthcare system blows my mind. That whole idea of that just, I don't get it. I really don't understand that kind of thinking. He is a young man. I think he's 28 or 29. Not unattractive. So, of course, he has all these women. It's absolutely crazy. And speaking of women, Chris Watts, who murdered his own family, who was convicted, is either married or getting remarried. Why? Why would you marry somebody in prison? That just, again, another thing that blows my mind. Knowing what somebody's been convicted of, why would you do that? And there is a long line of women who have fallen in love with these criminals who are notorious. That just blows my mind. Sorry, that's my rant for today. Just a long line of those. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Luigi gets married to one of these women who just support him. Luigi Mangione has now stood up in court and said, yes, I did it. Chris Watts was convicted of it. Bryan Kohberger pled guilty to murder. He now has filed a plea saying, I want to get rid of my guilty plea. But he pled guilty. And I think as a PhD student in criminal justice system, you probably understood what that meant. But he's got a whole line of people behind him called pro-burgers saying he didn't do it. Chris Watts, obviously some woman was enamored enough with him that he got married. It just, the whole idea that these criminals bring in these people, just absolutely blows my mind. School's getting ready to start. If your school hadn't started and you haven't gotten your kids back on schedule, really helpful if you start getting them up early. And most states, or many states, have passed that no cell phone bell to bell. Can I give you a hint as a parent? It may be really important that you get a hold of your child. Call the school office. Don't do something on their cell phone. Call the school office. Leave a note. They'll get it to them. It's really fast. Even if your school system allows cell phones, the cell phone ringing by mistake or the text notification going off is very distracting in class. So can I just say, if you're a parent, please, please, please call the school office and leave the message. They'll get it to them. All right, I have one last rant, and I'm a big sports fan. NFL preseason has started, and it irritates me. I have never decided whether we actually should be watching the preseason or not. As every game starts, they're hyping the game. Obviously, you gotta hype the game. Oh, we're gonna da-da-da. Then you get into it and the starters don't start and the other team's playing. Okay, that's fine. I mean, the others need to play. I get it. They get some playing time. The starters get some playing time. You don't want them hurt, so you pull them. But what I see time and time again is the team that loses, somebody's bound to say, oh, it was just preseason, don't worry about it. Okay, so why not do we watch it? Team that wins says, oh, this is a harbinger of things to come. If you're playing a game and your starters aren't in and you win or lose, does it really have any impact other than you're getting some playing time? The NFL preseason, I get it. It's fine. But it's yet another example of where we have talking heads 24/7 and they start saying the most ridiculous things. Oh, wait, I'm a talking head now. Okay, I guess I better go. Hey, folks, have a great week. We'll see you next Monday on the next edition of Monday Musings. I'm Barrett Collins, signing off. Bye-bye.